Places like Mogadishu have always been seen as good trading places with the Middle East. But how far do these ties go in terms of real trade and not just some little bit of communication? Now, of course, one of the big things that is different about it and the Middle East is that the majority of traders that are talked about are females, with the exception of major traders, which are tied to males, those who could cross throughout boundaries, so who went to different continents. But if you went into Mogadishu or any of these other places in the past, you would find females. In fact, we have one person who is actually related to the Prophet Muhammad, and he talks about his ties inside of Africa in Abyssinia. The fact that he had business ties within Africa is one of the things that saved him. Being a cousin of Muhammad, he is a significant character, and his words cannot be swayed away, or the words about him from people who wrote about him. This man was seen as a beautiful man, as described by some of the people, and that he was also to be married to a beautiful woman. But after this marriage, they would go to Abyssinia in order to escape the tortures that had befallen the Muslims. Even his own father or uncle, but his father did not approve of him turning to Islam, and therefore this played a negative role in his life to the point that he had to escape. This escape was aided by the fact that he was good with business and he could continue living a okay life in a completely different continent. As we read, after Surah Al-Masad or Surah Al-Lahab was revealed, their father Abu Lahab said to his sons that he would cease to have any connection with them should they fail to sever tie their relationships with the daughters of Muhammad. Therefore, before the marriage ceremony took place, they separated from both sisters. Thereafter, in Mecca, Hazrat Uthman married Hazrat Ruqiyya and migrated with her to Abyssinia. Hazrat Uthman and Hazrat Ruqiyya were paradigms of beauty. Thus, it was said, anxious of the troubles they faced owing to their faith, they were forced to flee for the sake of Allah and set off for Abyssinia. This was the first ever migration in Islam. The companions who migrated to Abyssinia included Hazrat Uthman, who traveled with his wife Hazrat Ruqiyya, daughter of the Holy Prophet. After that, a whole bunch of Muslims were commanded, if they could, if they had the means, to migrate to Ethiopia for their own safety so that the religion and the people could continue to exist in a healthy way. Abyssinia, of course, was more than open to this. In fact, the Negus at the time, who was in charge, was said to not only be kind, but to be fair. And he is written about as one of the great people of history. Unfortunately, people have no idea that this person even exists. A lot of people don't even know that Islam has Ethiopia all over it. It's written on the back of, let's say, the spiritual text. Now, anyone who's ever lived in a proper home knows how difficult it is to leave your original place of origin. But imagine having to leave your original place of origin with a number of people who feel displaced at the time. This is basically a saving from a potential genocide at the time by the Ethiopians, one of the earliest written about, and yet one of the most unknown in history. It is a truly significant moment in history. It's actually one of the causes of why the West Africans and other Africans were some of the earliest to adopt the religion of Islam, because to some degree it was seen as a native religion. It grew from within, starting obviously in Arabia, and then, like a pot, it starts boiling within Africa, within this Egyptian, Ethiopian, North African context, with people from different nations. Imagine that as a religion. People from different nations with the ability to add into the religion, trying to clarify more and more what exactly the message is that is being told to these people. Something that never happened before. Religions, remember, they all come from a specific point of view. You start with, okay, Israelites, they all created the religion. Now, of course, we know that Egyptians, Assyrians, and all these people basically added to the religion, but the context is it's Israeli. This one is a world religion. It starts off with the concept that it's a world religion, that it belongs to no people. People today fuse Arab with Islam, but that has never been the case in history. No one has ever seen it as an Arabic religion. The writer Ahmad ibn Yahya al-Baladuri wrote about something very specific, and it was called The Origins of the Islamic State. Now, that's the important part, not the origins of the Islamic religion, not the origins of the Arab states, not the origin of the ever growing Arab empire, but the origins of the Islamic State. And there's a reason why he chose this name, because as it continued to expand, as it continued to become Islamic in its giant context, it also became basically a world religion. He talks about every single spread that happens, starting, of course, with the Middle East, and then he goes to places like India, places like Africa, places like Europe. Think about how fast this religion actually spread. Think about how quickly it became. Now, in the years prior to Islam, they were known as the years of ignorance. Now, of course, this ignorance is not the fault of humans because Muhammad was not born yet. But after he was born, there was a feverish push from the people that they have to teach as many people as they can. Otherwise, they're keeping them in ignorance. When talking about the Maghreb inside his book, he talks about how feverishly the people basically wanted to conquer North Africa, the Maghreb, and put in the religion at the time. This fight, this land, obviously successful, as most people in North Africa are today Muslim. From this place, it traveled further south, and of course, there's names attached to all of this. This is the scary part about the history of both North Africa, East Africa, West Africa, is that there's names everywhere, but no one ever mentions the names. It's always some guy somewhere took over something and changed the history. And then, of course, they ignore the fact that the people say the people who took over belong to this tribe. They acted in this tribe. They used to capture this tribe. They converted to Islam, so they were not into capturing slaves. They used to communicate and trade with this tribe. All of that is ignored for oh yeah, they converted to Islam and no one knows how it happened because they're all a bunch of natives and that doesn't matter. But that's not how it worked. That is not how it worked at all. And that's actually why a lot of people are wrong about almost all the information they hear about North Africa coming from all sides. Because if you do not drop Islam inside of North Africa and you think that it was a free for all, that you could be Christian, you could be whatever, it was just a free for all at the time, then you're going to get a wrong history about what happened. And you're not going to understand that there was a giant push. It wasn't small, and it didn't come from one place. Its push was something that had happened amongst many, many different types of people. And even in West Africa, they sent other Africans in order to help convert the people who would be similar to the population, people from Abyssinia, people who they wrote about, people who Abyssinian people wrote about and said, yo, we just communicated with some of these Canaan empires, and the people there took to the religion. They love the religion. They understand the religion. They think Muhammad is actually native to their land. In Somalia, there is a group called the Asharaf. The Asharaf claim descendancy from Muhammad through some of Muhammad's relatives or daughters and all of that, wives. And with this claim, it might be true given the number of people who ran away to Somalia at the time of banishment from Mecca and Medina. These people who came that I mentioned earlier give us a context or a reason to believe that some of the people who are in Somalia, especially those who mixed with some of the people from Medina, might have some claim towards being, the descendants of Muhammad. Now, this claim, though different, is actually not the only claim in Somalia. I mean, let's read this. So the Ashraf, also spelled Ashraf, is a Somali clan that their name is the plural Sharif, an originally Arabic term, those who claim descent from the family of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, belonging to the larger group of Somali clans living in southern parts of the country called Benadiri. They fall outside of the traditional Somali clan structures and are often marginalized within Somalia. As a minority, they have been the target of violent Islamic groups such as Al Shabaab. Contrary to most other Somali clans who trace their ancestry to Muhammad's cousin and Ali's older brother, Akil ibn Abi Talib, the Asharif claim descent from Hassan and Hussein, the sons of Ali and Muhammad's daughter Fatima. Like the claims of other Somali clans in this regard, this alleged genealogy is historically untenable and may be understood as part of what Sada Mira has called the Somali Islamic myth of origins. Now, I assure you, this is not purely from a Somali point of view, as there are people in West Africa today who still claim that some of their founders of their civilizations were Muhammad's descendants. It's funny because in the Mukaddima, Ibn Khaldun warns against this. He says it is very typical but incorrect for human beings to claim descent over this famous person and this other famous person. In the context that he puts it in, he both talks about it in the sense of some of the prophets from the Bible, but not only that, he says that this whole every lineage can be traced their race to Noah is just another one of these taking a famous person and tracing your entire lineage to it simply because they're famous, and that it's unscientific and makes no sense whatsoever. Interestingly, in that one, he was defending black people, saying that those people who say that black people are slaves because they are descendants of Noah and Noah cursed his son, it's simply incorrect. Now, of course, the reason they're doing this is because there's value to it, and there's claims that you can rule by being descended from this. And this is why even the Kanem Empire, when it first started and converted to Islam, their first claim in the Gigram, or the Book of Kings, was that they too descend from a group of migrants who came from the Middle East, and their king descended directly from Muhammad. As we read, the early Kanem Empire was ruled by the Dugua dynasty, an aristocratic group who chose a Mai among themselves. The Dugua were probably Kanembu, later legend reflecting a desire to connect the Kanem to the greater Islamic world, claimed that they were descendants of migrants from the Arabian Peninsula who intermarried with the indigenous people around Lake Chad. Later tradition identified Mai Susman or Susam as the first ruler of the empire. The Dugua dynasty gets its name from the empire's third ruler, Dugu. This, of course, is not completely unique to the Islamic religion. Every single religion does this. In fact, in the Zulu religion, that's the only claim they make to religion. They don't really make a claim to a god. They don't really make a claim to great spirits or even the fact that the spirits are on their side. In some cases, they make it quite obvious that they think that the spirits are against them. But one thing, the one fundamental thing is that ancestrally they are connected to some of the greatest figures historically. In Christianity, it's the same, except, of course, people don't claim to be the son of Jesus because he didn't have any children. They claim instead to be the son of King David. They claim to be the son of whoever they choose. Even the push of Noah's sons being Shem, Ham, and Japheth, that was accepted by the Christians, even though it was invented by the Muslims. And you can see the parallels. In fact, everything about Christianity later on was adopted from the Muslims who were stationed in Portugal.